3 spine-chilling true janitor horror tales, secrets revealed, sinister nightmares exposed. Sarah fumbled with her keys, the dim hallway of Maplewood Middle School stretching out before her like a dark abyss. Her heart pounded as she stepped inside, the hairs on her neck prickling. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a job that promised stability for her kids. Instead, the shadows whispered her name, teasing her with an unsettling hush. "You can't escape the truth," echoed in her mind as the fluorescent lights flickered ominously overhead. That first night, she could feel the presence of something uncanny lurking just beyond the corners of her vision. The hollow echo of her mop against the cold tile floor heightened her sense of dread, while a chilling breeze seemed to swirl around her, slipping through her uniform like ice. Suddenly, a soft whisper coiled through the air, something indistinct, almost mocking, sending her heart racing. She glanced around, but the school was as empty as her stomach felt. She pushed deeper into the heart of the school, compelled to uncover what lay hidden in its corridors. The eerie silence morphed into something sinister. Graffiti marred the pristine walls, sinister scrawls appearing almost alive in the dim light. She read the words again, "You can't escape the truth." The stomach nodding intensifies. Who had put this here? A chill swept through her. Was this school haunted? In the darkness, she spotted Mr. Harris, the old janitor whose presence was oddly comforting. He smiled warmly, but the way his eyes darted to the shadows made her pulse quicken. "Come on," he said, beckoning her to the basement. "It's where the real stories are." She hesitated. Something about that basement felt wrong. "Don't worry," he added, misreading her caution. "It's just an old basement. Lots of history." As they descended the stairs, the air thickened, their footsteps muffled. He began to spin tales of vanished children, his voice dipping into an eerie whisper. Sarah's hands trembled as she gripped the railing, the warmth of his confidence clashing with the icy fear wrapping around her heart. "They say some are still down there," he murmured, a gleam in his eyes. She chuckled nervously, but it didn't help dispel the shivers creeping down her spine. Before long, she started to piece together the rumors. Other mothers at the grocery store had shared whispers, cautious glances exchanged when the subject of missing kids came up. The hairs on the back of her neck bristled. Was she in over her head? It felt impossible, yet here she was. Each night, drawn further into the darkness, her fears fed by Mr. Harris's unfathomable focus on the basement. One night, as she scrubbed the graffiti-streaked hallway, a harsh crash echoed from below. Her breath hitched. She knew she should run, but something compelled her towards the stairs. The distant voice called out her name, raspy and pleading, a siren song beckoning her into the abyss. Panic surged as she felt her phone vibrate in her pocket. Frantic messages from neighbors flooded in, warning of a shadowy figure seen meandering near her home, strangely resembling Mr. Harris. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air felt heavy around her as dread unfurled, gripping her very core. Sarah's heart raced. She was now standing at the basement door, shadows whispering a warning. Should she turn back, or step into the darkness? Her children depended on her, but how could she protect them from horrors lurking beneath? Was it time to confront a truth she was desperately avoiding? The whispers of the night grew louder, pressing against her mind, demanding she discover what lay in the depths of Maplewood Middle School. What horrifying truths awaited her? And what of the man she had come to trust? The choice loomed ahead, as palpable and terrifying as the shadows themselves. The door creaked open, the sound slicing through the oppressive air. Sarah hesitated, her hand frozen on the cold metal handle, as icy fingers of fear snaked up her spine. The basement awaited her, shrouded in darkness and silence, an unknown predator lurking just out of sight. "Stay back," she warned herself, but the whispers grew louder, a cacophony urging her to step inside. It was an echo, a relentless pulse of need that gripped her heart. Clenching her jaw, she plunged into the shadows. The fluorescent flickers behind her faded as the darkness enveloped her. The basement was more extensive than she'd imagined, a sizable open space marred with ancient machinery and dusty boxes. A faint whiff of mold mixed with stale air, creating a nauseating scent that twisted her stomach. Sarah instinctively reached for her phone, its dim light barely cutting through the inky blackness. "Just a room full of junk," she whispered, trying to convince herself. But even her own voice sounded hollow and distant. The flicker of her light caught something behind an old cabinet, a glint, metallic and strange. Her heart raced as she took a step closer, a mix of caution and curiosity pulling her forward. Suddenly, the cabinet creaked, shifting as if something heavy had pushed against it from the inside. Intense fear surged within her, the urge to flee battling against the mask of her duty as a mother. "It's just old wood, it's just old wood," she chanted in her mind. But then, she heard it, a soft thud echoing through the basement, too deliberate to be a mere shift. A chill washed over her, sharper than the draft swirling about. The whispering escalated, curling around her ears. "Help us!" The voice was faint, strained, a desperate plea that sent her heart racing. She stumbled backward, hand pressed against the wall, but the shadows seemed to dance closer, taunting her. The echoes of children's laughter haunted her momentarily. She recalled the stories she'd brushed off, the missing kids, the look in Mr. Harris's eye when he'd spoken of the basement. Was it all connected? Panic flared, heating her blood until she felt dizzy. Why hadn't she listened? Why had she ventured into this abyss? In the distance, footsteps. Heavy and slow. All the hairs on Sarah's neck stood on end. She was no longer alone. The soft scraping grew louder, pounding rhythmically against her heart. "Mr. Harris?" She called out, her voice quivering, sinking into the stifling silence. But she knew. Deep down, she knew that he was the last person she should seek for help. The shadow of her intent flickered just past her line of sight, an outline of a figure, lurking at the periphery. Sweat trickled down her temple as the figure took shape. It wasn't Mr. Harris, it was a child, dirt-streaked and hollow-eyed. "Help us!" it rasped, reaching out toward her. The basement shifted around her, walls closing in, darkness thickening into something alive. With a final flicker, her phone's light died, plunging her into total blackness. All that remained was the sound of her own terrified breathing and whispers circling her like hungry wolves. She turned to run but collided with the thin, cool air where the door should have been. It was gone, the path to escape vanished into the depths. The whispers rose to a deafening roar as unseen hands seemed to pull her back. "We want to be free." What choice would she make now? Would she fight for her escape or heed the voices calling from the dark? The room plunged deeper into chaos as the shadows expanded, each whisper growing more urgent, and Sarah felt herself backing toward the unseen horror closing in around her. And in that moment, a pair of glowing eyes blinked open in the darkness, fixing upon her, promising a terror she could scarcely comprehend. Would it be the end or a beginning steeped in dread? With her pulse racing and her mind racing even faster, she realized, she might not leave Maplewood Middle School at all. The darkness pressed in around Sarah like a dense fog, thick and suffocating. She had no light, no guide, only the frantic beating of her heart and those chilling whispers that seemed to weave through the very fabric of the basement. Help us, help us!" Their urgency pulled at her, tugging her toward the center of despair. She could feel a presence drawing nearer, a weight in the air that made her skin crawl. The chilling temperature seemed to seep through her clothes, wrapping around her like icy tendrils. Sarah forced herself to breathe slowly, each inhale a fight against the panic clawing at her throat. Who are you?" she croaked into the silence, hoping for an answer. The child, still obscured by shadows, stepped closer. In that fleeting moment, she caught a glimpse of the boy's face. His eyes, sunken and desperate, shone like two dim stars in a night sky. "They won't let us go," he rasped, his voice scraping over her like a shard of glass. "You have to help us." Her mind reeled with confusion. Help? How? She felt trapped in an unseen web, webs woven from dread and sorrow. As if compelled by an unseen force, Sarah took a hesitant step forward. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, the shadows shifted, forming grotesque figures that flickered just out of reach. Faces loomed, their mouths twisted into silent screams, their eyes hollow like the void around her. A rush of anger surged through Sarah, mixed with guilt and fear. "What happened to you?" A low, mournful wail reverberated through the basement, shaking the very walls. In a heartbeat, the child shifted closer, urgency radiating off him like palpable heat. "The janitor, he took us." They all went. The boy's voice trembled, and time slowed as the realization set in. The lost children he spoke of, they were the names she couldn't forget. Missing posters, news reports. Her mind raced back to those faces she had seen plastered on every lamppost. "No," she breathed, her heart plummeting. "Not Mr. Harris." He wouldn't. Fingers of icy dread wrapped around her spine. But the child shook his head violently. "You have to believe. He has the others, too. They're still here." With one last desperate shout, the child lunged forward, grabbing her wrist with surprising strength. "We're trapped. We need." Suddenly, a loud clattering echoed through the darkness, shattering the fragile connection they had formed. A shape surged from the shadows, massive and menacing. She barely had time to process the figure before it lunged at her, a dark silhouette with arms like a nightmarish serpent reaching for her throat. Instinct kicked in, and Sarah fought against the grip of the child, pulling away, her heart hammering. Coldness washed over her as she scrambled back, slipping into the slick mold of the floor. Behind her, the whispers grew frantic, ringing in her ears like a chorus of despair. She charged blindly, desperation fueling her steps, until she stumbled into a wall, her palms pressed against a dull metal surface. No door, just cold steel that felt alive beneath her touch. The shadows loomed closer, the child's screams mixing with the horrifying laughter of unseen entities. "You're next. Join us." With a feral shout, Sarah turned, ready to confront whatever horror awaited her, but the basement twisted in the darkness, trapping her voiceless, bathed in terror. As her body trembled with dread, the walls whispered one last phrase, chilling her to the bone: "You wanted to see, now you will." And there, amongst the grasp of darkness, a flicker of light promised a revelation, one that burned with sinister truth. What was it that awaited Sarah in the grip of the night? Would she find the courage to face the reality of Maplewood's secrets? Cold metal pressed into Sarah's palms, grounding her in the moment. She could barely hear the child's terrified breath above her pounding heart. Panic mingled with determination, a volatile mix that pushed her forward. "What do you want?" She screamed into the void, but the words were swallowed whole. The darkness laughed back, echoed, mocking. The boy, still by her side but fading in and out of her peripheral vision, grabbed her wrist again, desperation etched deep across his face. "You can't be here. You need to leave." But where could she go? The shadows were like living things, slithering and twisting. They surrounded her, whispering in a language too horrifying to comprehend. "Join us. Join us." Their voices morphed into a cacophony of pain that pierced through her mind. Images of hollow eyes and outstretched hands flashed in her memory, fragments of the missing children, twisted and ethereal. "Why can't you escape?" She managed to choke out, trying to understand the madness that wrapped around her. The boy trembled, his skeletal form flickering like a dying bulb. "He won't let us." Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed throughout the basement, silencing the whispers. A light flickered, wavering like a heartbeat in the thick shroud of darkness around them. Hope sprang up inside her, a fragile, delicate thing. A way out. She thought, revving her spirit. She dashed toward the light, dragging her feet through the damp ground, half expecting a hand to reach from the abyss and pull her back, but as she neared the source, her heart dropped. What she found was worse than anything she could have imagined. A narrow window stood ajar, splintering beams of moonlight that danced around a pile of discarded toys, half buried under dust and time. Old, broken dolls stared at her with empty ceramic eyes, their faces mirroring the hopelessness swirling within the basement walls. What is this?" she gasped. "Do you see?" The boy muttered, his voice distant. "They are all here, forgotten just as we are." The darkness shifted again, and Sarah felt an oppressive weight lift temporarily, like a breath of fresh air. But it was fleeting. The air thickened once more, the twisted figures growing emboldened, their cries rising alarmingly as if time were running out. She could almost feel the frost in the air encroaching, it ate away at her resolve. Chills prickled her skin, and she shivered, feeling each unseen gaze boring into her. "Sarah!" A voice bellowed from the shadows, booming with terrifying authority. "You cannot leave. Not yet." The figure from before emerged, but this time, it took on shape. A man with a twisted smile, a janitor's uniform hanging off his lanky frame. "You want answers? You want to see?" He extended his arms. "Then I'll show you all their fate." "No!" she shrieked, instinctively lunging back, but the shadows coiled tighter around her, binding her in place. Terror pulsated inside her as the boy pleaded, "Run. You have to run." But it was too late. With a flick of his wrist, the janitor commanded the shadows, and they surged forward, licking at her ankles, pulling her toward the darkness beyond the slippery edge of the light. "Help us!" the boy cried, but the janitor's laughter echoed against the walls, drowning out any hope left in Sarah's heart. As the shadows consumed her whole, the last thing she saw was the boy's outstretched hand, desperate and shaking. Then darkness enveloped her completely. What twisted fate awaited Sarah and the lost children? Would she find a way to confront the janitor, or would she vanish into the depths alongside them? The darkness pressed heavily around Sarah, even as it swallowed her. She felt weightless, as if floating through an inky abyss. Terrifying thoughts clawed at her mind, visions of the janitor and his mocking smile haunting her every second. Was she truly lost? Then, without warning, the pressure around her shifted. A prickling heat surged through her body, illuminating the shadowed corners. She gasped, feeling a jolt of instinct pull her back to awareness. "Sarah!" The boy's voice sliced through the darkness, sharp and clear. "You have to listen. You must remember." A flicker of light emerged. It pulsed like an erratic heartbeat, drawing her eye. She spun, and there it was, a door, spectral and shadowy, swaying slightly as if inviting her. "Go through the door," the boy urged. His small form flickered in and out, a ghost trapped between worlds. "It's a passage, find the key." Before she could respond, a cold tendril lashed out, wrapping around her ankle with a vice grip. Sarah stumbled, panic racing through her veins. She kicked desperately, feeling the sharp bite of fear clamping down on her throat. "No!" she screamed, desperation pouring from her. The janitor's laughter echoed again, sinister and twisted. "You think you can escape, my dear?" They all tried. His words dripped with a sick enjoyment as he loomed closer, the shadows pulsating around him like a living shroud. In a frantic rush, Sarah turned towards the door, her heart hammering so loud it drowned out his voice. She reached out, fingers brushing against the cool wood as she felt something metallic beneath her touch. A key! Her fingers curled around it, warmth flooding through her as adrenaline surged. With renewed strength, she yanked the door open. A blinding light flooded her vision, and for an instant, she could see beyond the promise of safety, of air untouched by despair. But it felt far away, almost impossible to reach. "Run!" the boy urged again, his voice tightening with urgency, trembling like a fragile leaf in the wind. "He's coming. As if summoned by the boy's words, the shadows stretched and lunged, clawing out like skeletal hands eager to drag her back. She felt their cold breath on her neck, whispered promises of despair curling around her like smoke. "Help us!" the boy cried, the anguish in his voice piercing through the haze of terror. "Stay with me!" she shouted back, unwilling to leave him behind. But uncertainty gnawed at her, dark and consuming. Could she save him, or would she be lost in the depths of that wretched place? Time blurred, seconds stretching, the urge to flee clawing under her skin. She could feel the shadows swallowing the distant light, choking it, and all she could do was push herself into the doorway, adrenaline thrumming in her veins. With a swift breath, she leaped through, flinging her body into the blinding light. The shadows screamed in rage, a monstrous cacophony that echoed in her ears as she tumbled forward, exposing her to something different. It felt like a rush of air, a cleansing sensation. But she landed not outside, but within another room, a faded nursery bathed in sepia tones. Stacks of old toys surrounded her, their presence unsettling. She pushed herself up, scanning the room. The air was stale, thick with memories, but silent. "Where am I?" she whispered, trembling. Suddenly, the heavy door behind her slammed shut with a thunderous bang. Panic surged through her as a soft voice echoed innocently, a lilting song that pierced her bones. "Come play with us." Chills cascaded down her spine. Sarah turned, wide-eyed. Who was singing? Where had the boy gone? As she lurched backward, eyes darting, the walls began to whisper secrets, a dark tapestry of lost children bound in fading dreams. The janitor's laughter reverberated through the walls. "You can't escape your fate." A new fear gnawed at her. What if there was no escape at all? With breath caught in her throat, Sarah prepared herself for whatever horror awaited in that room. Would she uncover the dark truths of the nursery, or would it claim her like those before? The voice sang again, soft and haunting, weaving through the stale air like a fine thread of madness. "Come play with us." The innocence in the tone felt sinister, a chilling invitation laced with deceit. Sarah swallowed hard, her heart racing. What do you want?" she stammered, her voice trembling as she scanned the nursery, searching for the source of that sickly sweet melody. Shadows danced at the corners of her vision, teasing her with vague shapes that seemed to flicker and vanish when she focused on them. "Play." The voice chimed, growing louder, a twisted echo of childhood laughter. The toys seemed to shift around her, tiny figurines and plush animals watching with beady eyes, their seats vacant and waiting. She stumbled backward, pressing against the door, desperate for a way out, her hands clammy against the cool surface. But the door banished her hope as it remained firmly shut, refusing to budge. "You can't leave, Sarah," the voice taunted, dripping with delight as if it had all the power. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, the desperation in her voice rising. "Join us," the voice crooned. "We're lonely." The nursery transformed before her eyes. The walls pulsed like a living entity, breathing with secrets long forgotten. A grim realization crept over her. The toys held more than mere dust, they were relics of children who had vanished, their joy twisted into echoes of sorrow. "Help us," another voice whispered, fragile and broken. It was a child's voice, barely a whisper carried on stale air. Sarah felt her mind wrangle with their cries, her thoughts tumbling headlong into panic. "I can't help you," she gasped, clutching her key. But what could she do? What did it even unlock? She glanced down at the key, its surface glinting with the dim light that illuminated the room. An old rocking horse in the corner creaked ominously, its chipped paint revealing a history of decay. She stepped toward it, compelled as if it offered a clue. It rocked back and forth, and somehow, she felt its sorrow, a deep longing for the child it once cherished. "How did you end up here?" she whispered. The horse with its dull eyes seemed to sway, whispering secrets of its tragic fate. "Forgotten," it creaked, its voice a whisper that sent chills racing up her spine. Unfazed, she turned her attention to the wall where shadows coalesced. There, inscribed in faded letters, was a name, Lucy. The letters were crude and jagged, like a child had scratched them into the wood. "Lucy, is that you?" Sarah breathed, stepping closer until she felt the cold emanating from the wall, thick and cloying like fog. A sudden chill seized her, an icy grip around her throat that made her gasp for air. "No!" She choked out, the laughter echoing louder, drowning her thoughts. It rose and fell like a tide, pushing her deeper into despair. "Let me go." And then, the nursery's charm turned dark. The toys began to shift, their faces contorting into grotesque expressions. A doll with cracked porcelain skin grinned widely, its eyes glistening with unshed tears. A train set on the floor rattled violently, the cars bumping together in a whispering fury. "Join us forever," they moaned in unison. Sarah staggered back until her legs brushed against a pile of stuffed animals, their worn bodies crumpled. One teddy bear, its fur matted and lifeless, raised an arm as if beckoning her to come closer. The tangle of emotions constricted around her heart, and she felt the pull, a visceral temptation to succumb to their fate surged through her. In that moment, everything fell silent. The laughter ceased. The toys froze in their eerie postures, eyes boring into her soul. The stillness amplified her fear, pressing on her like a vice. "What do you want?" she whispered, fear pinning her to the spot. The walls seemed to lean in, as if hungry for her answer. And then, from the center of the room, a breathless laughter sprang forth, cold and chilling. "Find us," the voice echoed, a ripple of malice dancing through the shadows. "Or you'll be one of us," as dread gnawed at her insides, her gaze shot to the darkened corners of the nursery. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Was she truly alone? Sarah stepped forward, heart racing, as an insatiable curiosity clawed at her. The shadows seemed to beckon, holding secrets that threatened to engulf her whole. What lay hidden in the recesses, lurking just out of sight? Panic bubbled in her throat as the air thickened, stifling her breath. What horrors awaited as she ventured deeper into the nursery's embrace? With every ounce of courage, Sarah took a step forward. Would she uncover the truth hidden within those fading memories, or would she descend into darkness, forever entwined with lost souls? The air grew thicker as Sarah stepped deeper into the nursery, each breath a struggle against an unseen weight pressing on her chest. Shadows writhed in the corners, vibrating with a life of their own. The chilling laughter faded to a whisper, but the echo lingered, wrapping around her thoughts like a vine ready to choke. "Find us," the voice, now softer, floated like smoke in the air, wrapping around her, pulling her closer to the rocking horse. Its once comforting sway now felt sinister, an invitation laced with dread. "What do you mean?" she called out, her voice quaking. The key in her hand felt alive, throbbing as if it too sensed the urgency of her presence. In the dim light, the toys formed a grotesque audience, their lifeless eyes glinting with malicious glee. It was as if they held their breath, waiting for her next move. A creeping sensation slithered down her spine as she surveyed the room, each detail sharpened in a timeframe of suspense, the cracked paint on the walls, the threadbare rug beneath her feet. Then, from the far corner, more movement caught her watchful gaze. An old trunk. It looked ordinary enough, but there was something about it that beckoned. A soft sigh seemed to emanate from its depths, a whisper of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Against her better judgment, Sarah approached. Each step resonated with a sense of foreboding, a natural warning clawing at her instincts. She knelt before the trunk, heart hammering, pulse racing. Rusty hinges creaked as she lifted the lid, revealing a tangle of old dresses, each faded, each seeming to breathe sorrow into the air. Among the layers of fabric, an object glimmered, a small, ornate music box. Its surface was adorned with intricate designs of flowers, dulled by years of neglect. As if possessed, Sarah picked it up, her fingers brushing the cool metal. Against the stillness, the box began to play, a soft, haunting melody echoed through the room. As the familiar tune twisted through the air, the atmosphere transformed. The whispers grew louder, the voices like wind chimes in a storm. "Help us, it's not over, find Lucy." They spiraled into a chaotic cacophony, a desperate plea woven through the fabric of the nursery. She looked around, the walls bending and shifting, shadows deepening. The rocking horse began to sway again, its voice rising above the rest. "She's here. Find her. Bring her back." "Who is Lucy?" Sarah demanded, gripping the music box. Confusion warred with terror as the namesake pierced her heart like glass shards. An overwhelming urge to dig deeper consumed her. With a sudden surge of determination, she opened the box fully, revealing a delicate porcelain figure of a girl, a miniature version of a child in a frilly dress. At that moment, the nursery plunged into darkness. The laughter splintered into shrieks of panic. The toys' expressions soured, mouths wide in silent screams as shadows converged around Sarah, swallowing her in a suffocating embrace. The music box fell from her grip, its melody fading into silence as she stumbled back. The nursery shifted, the room rolling like an ocean beneath her, undulating and unsettling. The name Lucy resonated within her mind, echoing with an urgency that felt aged yet unnervingly present. In the pitch black, she felt something cold brush against her arm, a hand. An icy grip that held her tight. "What do you want from me?" she cried out, her voice laced with fear. "Find us, join us," the voices chanted, a rising tide of helplessness and rage flooding the air. Just then, the nursery pulsated violently, a bone-rattling shift as light flickered at the edges of shadowy silhouettes. Sarah could barely understand, her heart racing faster than it ever had. The room felt alive, and she realized the nursery wasn't just a prison, it was a trap, a cycle of despair she was desperate to escape. An urgency crashed inside her like thunder, but so did another realization: they weren't just lost. They were waiting for her to unlock their hidden tragedies, entangled in a web deeper than mere despair. As the urge to flee fought against her instinct to find the truth, she clung to the last thread of bravery. What lay at the center of this dark labyrinth? What secrets bled into the walls of this cursed nursery? The chilling laughter returned, but this time, it came from within her. The shadows twitched impatiently. Would she let fear dictate her fate, or would she dare to unearth Lucy's hidden truth? The air crackled around her, and she knew there was no turning back. As a new voice rose above the others, commanding and resolute, Sarah braced herself for the showdown that awaited her, the nursery's true horror just around the corner. The darkness pressed in tightly, wrapping around Sarah like a shroud. She could hardly breathe, each inhalation a struggle against the overwhelming terror that filled the space. The whispers morphed into a frantic din, each voice layered like a gusting wind threatening to strip her sanity away. "Find the girl, find Lucy." Their unnatural shrieks pierced through the silence, demanding her obedience. With a wrenching sense of urgency, she stumbled forward, heart pounding, desperate to uncover the truth behind those pleading voices. As she moved deeper into the nursery, the freezing air wrapped tightly around her arms, the chill seeping into her skin, weaving through her veins. Just ahead, a flicker of light caused her to pause. A small lantern, old and rusted, stood in a corner among the debris of forgotten toys and memories. Drawing closer, a sense of unease gripped her. What had once been the reassuring light of a childhood now felt like the ominous glow of a haunting past. Sarah reached for the lantern, a surge of hope and dread battling inside her. But as her fingers brushed the cold metal, shadows stretched across the room, reaching toward her as if trying to snag her foot, tether her to the one spot, encase her in their torment. "Bring her back or we'll never be free," the voices echoed, fervently weaving a net around her, squeezing tighter, clenching her jaw. She refused to let fear paralyze her. "Lucy, I'm here to help you," she cried, her own voice trembling against the oppressive atmosphere. The room shuddered. The lantern flickered violently, casting frantic shadows that danced along the walls like something from a nightmare. For a heartbeat, everything fell silent and still. "Help us," whispered a child's voice, sweet and soft yet drenched in despair. Suddenly, the rocking horse lifted off the ground, hovering slightly, the creaking of its wooden joints almost mocking her. A memory, blurry yet familiar, swept through her mind: a little girl with pigtails, laughing as she played with the horse. Was that Lucy? "Where are you, Lucy?" Sarah pressed on, heart hammering against her chest as she felt the temperature drop further. Wisps of cold air swirled around her, some eluding capture by the lantern's glow. As she strained to listen, a crash reverberated in the nursery, a cacophony of toys hurtling to the ground, as if a tempest was unleashed. They feared her, or perhaps they were jealous of the light she sought to wield. "What do you want?" she yelled, inching closer to the rocking horse, darkness threading through her with every word. "Find the key. Unlock her spirit." The voices chanted in harmony, a dissonant melody weaving across the expanse. With trembling hands, Sarah unclenched the key that had felt alive in her grip moments before. Its weight was heavy, burdening her with the knowledge that this single object might hold Lucy's fate. Would it open a door or a tomb? As the key hovered before her, indistinct shapes began to coil and writhe behind her, dark forms emitting a sinking dread that threatened to overwhelm her. "What door?" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. The walls seemed to pulse, responding to her words as if alive. A door materialized amidst the chaotic shadows, one she never noticed before. It was battered and worn, an ancient passage that promised answers but could easily lead to her doom. With renewed dread and determination, Sarah stepped toward it, the echoes of the nursery crescendoing in madness, demanding her to make a choice. Would she dare to step inside the unknown darkness that promised to reveal secrets, or would she turn back, surrender to the madness? She turned the key toward the door, hand trembling, heart racing. A sharp click pierced the air as the door opened, a vacuum of darkness ready to consume her. What awaited her inside? With no way to prepare, Sarah took a breath and stepped through. The moment she stepped through, the door slammed shut behind her, plunging her into an abyss where the lantern's glow barely penetrated. The darkness felt sleek, almost sentient, sliding along her skin and curling around her limbs like an icy serpent. The air tasted stale, thick with a sorrow that settled in her throat. As her eyes adjusted, shapes began to emerge from the void. Walls that appeared to drip with decay, their surfaces etched deep with bizarre symbols, twisted like desperate hands grasping for salvation. "Lucy?" she called out, her voice swallowed by the oppressive silence. A flicker caught her eye. Tiny pinpricks of light danced ahead, flickering in and out like dying stars. Compelled by a mix of fear and hope, Sarah moved toward them, her footsteps echoing in this vast, claustrophobic space. Each step stirred whispers anew, twisting around her like barbed wire, scratching at her resolve. "Help us," the voices whispered again, growing stronger, more urgent. "Find Lucy." A burst of air brushed against her cheek, turning her head toward a crude wooden table. On it lay an array of objects, a frayed doll, a rusted hairbrush, and a small silver locket. Her pulse quickened as she recognized the pieces, a portion of Lucy's childhood, dredged up from the depths of this sinister realm. Picking up the locket, Sarah could almost hear Lucy's laughter anymore, echoing faintly in her mind. But before she could examine it further, the lights dimmed, and the room shuddered, casting her back into the deep shadows. "No!" she shouted, voice trembling. "I will find her." The whispers heightened, rising to a screeching chorus that rattled her very core. Suddenly, the symbols on the walls began to glow, casting surreal light over the space, revealing faint images, children's faces twisted in grimaces of fear, their tiny mouths open in silent screams. Frozen in horror, Sarah stumbled back. Then, as if sensing her dread, the dark shapes coiled tighter and drew closer, swirling around her in menacing figures. Each space they filled felt heavier, more suffocating. She felt their chilling breath on her neck, their eyes glinting like shards of glass. "Unlock her spirit," they wailed, venomous with urgency. "Shut up," she screamed, brandishing the locket and key wildly. The darkness writhed, recoiling from her desperation, clenching her jaw. Sarah turned the locket over, feeling a sudden warmth radiate from the metal. Something inside it had become alive, thrumming against her fingertips as it clicked open, revealing a picture of Lucy smiling innocently. More importantly, within the locket rested a small keyhole, fitting the shape of her own key. "Is this it?" she gasped, heart racing as the dim light flickered around her. But before she could act, a voice harsher than the others pierced through. "You think that can save you? Lucy is not waiting. She is trapped like all of us. Shut up." The words tore from Sarah's throat with savage intensity. In a flash, she turned the key, thrusting it toward the locket, praying it would summon the spirit of Lucy rather than unleash whatever darkness lingered. The moment the key touched the metal, an ear-splitting scream erupted, shaking the very foundation of this haunted place. The room twisted violently, light blinding her, noise overwhelming her senses. And just like that, silence fell. Sarah stumbled back, heart pounding, the echoes of the wailing fading like mist. She blinked against the sudden brightness, trying to adjust. Before her stood an opaque figure, slightly shimmering amidst the darkness, its form growing clearer. "Sarah," it whispered, its voice captivating yet heart-wrenching. "Help me." With those words, Sarah felt the foundation of her courage tremble. What had she unleashed? "Are you Lucy?" she gasped, fear pinching her chest. The figure gestured toward the swirling shadows, curling and writhing as if alive, beckoning her into their depths. "Help me before it's too late." But what was the price of salvation? Would she risk everything to save Lucy, or would she become ensnared in the same fate that trapped others? As she stepped closer, the shadows danced eagerly, their whispers rising in a violent crescendo, a warning mingled with a promise: "Find the door to your own salvation or you shall remain bound with the rest of us." What truth would she uncover next? Time was running out, and Sarah could feel the icy fingers of the past creeping back to claim her. The figure before her flickered like a candle in a gale, each moment threatening to snuff out its light. "Help me, Sarah, you can save us all." Lucy's voice echoed through the void, reverberating with desperation. Panic surged through Sarah's veins, her heart racing wildly. "How? What do I need to do?" The shadows twisted closer, dark tendrils seeking her warmth, whispering hints of despair. "Find the truth, the door, unlock the fears," Lucy pleaded, her form blurring in the intensity of the darkness. Feeling suddenly overwhelmed, Sarah took a deep breath. "I won't let you down," she declared, even as doubt gnawed at the edges of her fiery determination. With shaky hands, she reached for the locket, searching within its metallic grasp for the answer. The shadows pulsed furiously, yearning to swallow her whole. "Lucy!" she called, desperation clawing at her throat. "Where's the door?" A flicker of light caught her attention. Pointing, Lucy murmured, "The truth, the remnants follow the light." As Sarah turned, her heart clenched in anxiety. The resonance of children's laughter echoed, weighed heavy with nostalgia, blending with the sorrow that clung to the air. She felt a surge of energy propel her forward. She had to find it, she had to unlock Lucy's fate. The way ahead shimmered slightly, dusty remnants of a child's world emitted a faint, warm glow. A small wooden door appeared as if summoned from forgotten dreams, decorated with swirling patterns of flowers and stars. Clenching her key, Sarah rushed forward. As she neared the door, fear swirled in her gut. Could this be the passage she had been seeking? Face it, or forever remain trapped. The shadows roared, forcing her to pause. "You must confront what you fear." She hesitated, the memories of mislaid dreams flooding her thoughts, her children, the hushed conversations filled with uncertainty, her life hanging by a thread of responsibilities, steeling herself against the darkness closing in around her. Sarah turned the key in the lock. It clicked ominously, sending ripples through the air. The door creaked open, revealing a radiant light that washed over her, breaking the oppressive grip of despair. "Lucy!" she called, stepping inside, the glow consuming her completely. the world that awaited her felt ethereal, almost dreamlike. Laughter rang brightly, and the previous shadows retreated into the corners of her mind. A sunlit playground unfurled before her, swing sets dancing in the breeze, bright murals covering the walls, children playing joyously. It felt alive, vibrant. "Lucy!" She shouted again. From the corner of her eye, she spotted a girl with pigtails, a small dress flowing lightly as she danced. "Sarah! I knew you would come." Lucy's expression radiated hope, a stark contrast to the pain Sarah had witnessed in the depths of despair. "Lucy!" Sarah ran to her, curling her arms around the child. "I'm here to rescue you. I won't let you be trapped anymore." "I'm not the only one," Lucy whispered, her expression turning serious. "They're still lost." "Who? Where are they?" The realization dawned on Sarah as Lucy pointed toward the skies. A fragile thread tied the spirits of the lost children to the vibrant landscape. They were woven into the fabric of the light, held captive by the memories of their joy and the weight of fear. "You have to free them, Sarah," Lucy insisted, her voice rising. "Only then can I be free." Fueled by fierce determination, Sarah raised the locket, its warmth suffusing her with purpose. "I'll do it. I'll unlock their spirits." As she grasped the locket tightly, shadows twisted again, but this time they were different, less threatening. Instead, they hungrily beckoned, allowing warmth to return to the cold hate she felt in the basement. "You can save us," they called, voices merging into a harmonious choir, urging her to act. "I'm here," she shouted back, finding strength in her intent. The locket opened, floating effortlessly before her. She could hear the laughter of the children as a shimmering path illuminated in front of her. Taking a determined breath, Sarah stepped forward, refusing to succumb to fear. "Join us," echoed the voices, echoing profound longing infused with tears. "Unlock our freedom." Heart pounding, she traced her fingers across the locket's edges, feeling the warmth ripple. Drawing energy from the shared hopes of those lost, she shouted, "You are free. All of you. You will find peace." Light burst forth from the locket, cascading across the playground. It expanded, enveloping everything in bright radiance. The shadows began to dissolve, reducing into the light, losing their power as laughter of freedom erupted from every corner of the expansive world. "Thank you." Lucy beamed, her form shimmering. "You did it." The floodgates of hope burst open as the energy swirled around her, swirling like colorful ribbons, capturing the essence of every lost child, reclaiming their innocence. Suddenly, the laughter transformed into a beautiful melody, a lullaby echoing through Sarah's heart. "Sarah!" She heard Lucy call again, the voice ringing with clarity and strength. "You set us free. Together, we can continue now we're safe." Always tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks, infused with joy and sorrow for what could have been. She felt the air shimmer as sunlight cascaded like a waterfall, washing over all who had been lost, restoring them. As the last remnants of shadows faded into the corners of her mind, she stepped back, relinquishing the locket. The promises of freedom echoed around her. She knew they were safe now. The world around her transformed, a communal memory forged from shared hopes, blissful and serene, with smiles brightening the once gloomy atmosphere. Sarah stepped back into her reality, closer to her children, heart restored. She had faced the darkness, uncovered the truth, and reclaimed the lost light. As she walked away, a sense of warmth enveloped her, echoing with Lucy's laughter, forever intertwined with hope. But what lay beneath the surface of Maplewood Middle School? That unanswered question lingered, framing her thoughts with crisp clarity. As the whispers faded, an unshakable truth remained: she was stronger than fear, she could bring light to darkness. And as she exited that school, leaving the haunted basement behind, a flicker of promise ignited within her. Shadows would forever dance at the edges of her life, but she held the power to push them away. With newfound courage coursing through her veins, she whispered, "I will protect them, always." Now, dear viewers, if you felt even a fragment of the emotion in Sarah's journey, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now, and join our community. The next exclusive stories are waiting just for you. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and help us reach every corner of the internet where stories like this must be told. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think of Sarah's choices? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True horror fans understand the importance of spreading the word. Let's spread hope amidst the shadows together.